Welcome to episode 165 of the Wealth on Any Income podcast. This is where we talk about money tips, techniques, attitudes, information, and provide inspiration around your business and your money. I'm your host, Rennie Gabriel. In past episodes, we spoke about how to understand the numbers from your business, how to measure the level of pleasure based on where you spend your money, how to track your money in 5 to 10 seconds, what determines how close you are to complete financial choice, and how to run your business without being in your business. Last time we had Chris Felton, who is a recovered CPA and now a non-traditional 7-figure financial services entrepreneur and an Amazon best-selling author. Today we have as our guest Ali J. Taylor. Ali is the founder of Wisdom and Wayfinder Consulting, and he's going to tell us more. Ali, welcome to the Wealth on Any Income podcast.
Hey, Rennie, thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. So we'll start with some questions like, tell me more about the work you do and why you do it.
Yeah, so I started Wisdom and Wayfinder at the beginning of this year after a decade of doing marketing, branding, logo design, and digital marketing. Basically, every one-stop shop thing that a business would need for their marketing. I decided to do that because I got tired of working with businesses that were trying to solve business problems with marketing solutions. It became really painful and sort of heartbreaking at a point where you know that the kind of help that they need, but they're looking for the wrong solution and trying to convince them that, or not having a solution available for them became an issue for me. And so I decided to go into Wisdom and Wayfinder Consulting, where I offered done with you consulting to help those solopreneurs and micropreneurs grow, scale, and profit with the right systems, strategies, and relationships.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Now, you're probably aware I donate 100% of the profits from the work I do to various animal and veteran charities. Tell me about a particular charity that's near to you and tell me about them.
Yeah, so the one charity or nonprofit that I've been involved with for the last 7 or 8 years now is the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, specifically the New Jersey chapter. I started as a teammate, as a volunteer on someone's team back in 2016. Then the following year, someone else ran, and I was a volunteer on their team. And then I ran as my own candidate for what was called at the time the Man and Woman of the Year competition. It's now been rebranded to the Visionaries of the Year. But I've been a part of that. So I ran as my own candidate in 2018, joined the leadership team, ran again as an all-star in 2022, which meant I was competing on a national level, not just on a state. And then the past year, I was the chair for their executive leadership committee for their athletic division, which was all about, we ran half marathons in Disney and all those things to raise money for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. I am not somebody who runs. I don't enjoy it. I will go to the gym. I'll do anything else. But running is not something that I love and enjoy, but I would do it for a cause like this, specifically their Dare to Dream project, which is helping really speed up the cures and the treatments for pediatric blood cancer.
What I find is most people have a connection to philanthropic things that they're involved with because of personal experience, family member. Does that have anything to do with why leukemia and lymphoma?
Actually, no. I became involved because someone I knew at the time had asked me to be on her team, and I just fell in love with the organization and how they were doing it. I loved the fact that I think at the time, I want to say like 80 cents or above, I think it might even be closer to like 90 cents of every dollar went specifically to either treatments or to taking care of patients. So it wasn't being wasted on like overhead or anything like that. So I just really love the organization after just getting involved with it.
Okay. All right. So you're talking about solopreneurs as, people that you work with. Can you describe a little bit more about your target market?
Yeah, so I basically solve one problem for two different kinds of clients. The first is a client who's really good at what they do, but they're just struggling to reach their growth goals. And so statistics show us that like 95% of all solopreneurs are making about $20,000 or less per month. And that's just simply not
Oh,
enough. So I come in and I try to help them change that around. The second type of client that I work with is one that I call a stuck client. And they are someone who has had some success, but they don't have the systems or strategies or structures in place to really scale their business to the next level. And so that's where the Done With You consulting comes in. I sit down with them for an hour every week. We build all of those systems and strategies in place to make sure that they have a business that they can actually walk away from at some point, start to take some time away. And be a real person, and so that they can have the kind of quality life that they want as well. So, and then to build the relationships that are going to take them to the next level.
right. Yeah, it's the, do they want to be working on their business or in their business? Exactly. So now to a personal question, and it's a two-part question. What would you say your biggest failure was, whether it's personal or business, and what insight did you gain from that?
First of all, I love the optimism in thinking that my biggest failure is behind me. But I gotta say, I don't know if there's any major one. I know I've made a bunch of like a series of like little mistakes or larger mistakes that I certainly would never do again. However, I think it all comes down to any time that I didn't choose myself, any time that I made somebody else's opinion or valued somebody else's point of view over my own. Those are when those are the things that I would categorize as biggest mistakes, biggest lesson that I learned from it.
Okay, so it sounds like what you would say is your insight from that is to validate your own opinion and operate more on that, as opposed to what other people are saying would be right for you.
Absolutely. Biggest insight is definitely just getting grounded in who I am, what my mission is, what my purpose is, what are the values that I hold most dear, and then writing a list of the types of values values and perspectives that I want the people in my life to have as well, and then sticking to that list and ignoring anything that doesn't match that. Not that you don't want to have space or grace for other
Yeah.
people or differing opinions, but really just being clear on, does this align with who I am and what I want to see in the world through the work that I do?
Okay, well, let me ask you this. Someone that you've worked with in the past, or maybe someone you're going to be working with, give me an example of how the work you do supports them, or the results that they've either achieved or will achieve.
Yeah, so I'm working with a really great client, a friend of mine as well, who has the saying that if you aspire to inspire, and the universe will take notice. And
Hmm.
so it's such a beautiful statement. And the work that he does, I identified him as the chief storytelling officer. So he's an author, he's a playwright, he's a filmmaker, but he also does a lot of work with helping people rewrite their resumes and sort of craft a narrative around their career. And so he was telling me a story about a book that he wrote. Someone had bought that book who was in cancer, who was going through like hospice treatment for cancer.
Hmm.
And it was something that lit her up. She was laughing about it. And so when she passed, a family member purchased like 40 of those books because she wanted to share something that her family member, that had gotten her family member through such a hard and difficult passing. And so the work that I'm doing with this client is really to help him get out of his corporate job so that he can go and do more of that kind of work. So
Hmm.
we've come up with a strategy, we've come up with a game plan and a map to see like, okay, how is he going to replace his income, but also then exceed his income so that he can fund those other pieces of his business. And so we meet on a biweekly basis to make sure that he's on track. We have those targets. We like know where things are, where there's opportunities. We've created different products to help bring in more revenue so that he doesn't have to expend more energy. So he can still have the freedom to create and do all the other things that he loves.
Terrific.
Yeah.
It's funny, you get a little caught up with bi-weekly and think every other week. That works too.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. If people want to know more, if they want to get a hold of you, do you have some free resource, something valuable that our listeners could get a hold of?
Really, everything starts with a clarity call. So I just usually direct everyone to my website so that they can either book a clarity call or they can check out some of the media resources that I have down in the footer. One of the things that I do is I have a weekly live stream podcast called Wednesday Wisdom, on which you were a guest. And I'm so thankful that you were able to appear and do that, where I bring on other experts and people to share their experiences about what it takes to run, grow, and scale a business. And so that's one place they can get some free wisdom and free resources. But really, everything just starts with a call so that I can sit down, hear what they're going through, help them sort of understand like where they want to go, and then what's the gap to actually get there.
Terrific. First, I want to thank you for having me on your show. I appreciated that opportunity and talk about the charities that I support. And what event or thing in your life created or caused your biggest moment of growth?
Oh, I would definitely say it was the passing of my parents. They passed several years apart, but my father passed away in 2017. And then immediately, like the following year, that's when my mother was diagnosed with end-stage renal disease and had to go through a number of different surgeries. She had to go to dialysis 3 days a week. And so I moved in to help take care of her with my oldest sister for about 4 years before she passed. All of that while growing a business, doing the nonprofit work, also participating in another professional growth and development program. That is definitely an experience that has stretched me and shaped me in ways that I could never have imagined. And it's really given me a lot of perspective and sort of understanding of what's really important in life and how to really push forward in making sure that what we do matters, right? And how we show up matters. And a lot of the things that we think are important, that think are, that's all just ego and stuff that we could really just put aside. And there'd be so much more that we could do for ourselves and for each other.
And my condolences about your parents. And yeah, that's definitely something that can create tremendous growth and introspection. So, Ali, thank you for being on the Wealth on Any Income show.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rennie. I'm so happy to be here. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. And to those who are listening, if you'd like to know how books, movies, and society programs you to be poor and what the cure is, then log on to wealthonanyincome.com/TEDx. You'll hear my TEDx talk and can request a free 9-step roadmap to complete financial choice and philanthropy, and receive an occasional email with tips, techniques, or inspiration around your business or your money. And if you'd like to see how you can increase your wealth and donate to the causes that touch your heart, please check out our affordable program, Wealth with Purpose. To my listeners, thank you for tuning in. You can listen to the Wealth on Any Income podcast on your favorite platform. And please rate, review, and subscribe. And until next time, be prosperous. Bye-bye for now.